Hello and welcome back to the PHP MVC Framework series. In this video I hope to, we will finish up our refactor for our validation. And so we got to take care of a few things. The first thing that notice is that if you go ahead and register and all the validation passes, the password is going to be a plain text password in your database. And we don't want that. So let's go ahead now and update that. And in order to do that, we get to add something new and useful to our framework here. So the first thing we need to do is go ahead down and open up core and model. And what I want to do is let's just add it. It doesn't matter where we add it. So I'm going to add it down at the bottom here. I'm going to just stub out a function. So public function. And it's just going to be before save. Now this is in the parent model class. And then what I want to do is in the save method, scroll back up to the save method. Inside the save method right here, if it validates, the first thing that we want to do is go ahead and run the before save thing. So we'll do we're going to say before or this, and then we're going to call that before save method. So now in the model itself, before save doesn't have a body, so it's not going to do anything, and that's what we want because we may not always use this. But in our case, we need to change the password right before it's saved for the purposes of the user model. So go back to the models and open up the users model, and up here right below the validator, let's just go ahead and add a public function before save. So what the before save is a hook that we have now that we can actually do something before save. Actually, I just kind of changed my mind a little bit. I don't want to do it here. If it validates, I actually think we're going to call this before the update and before the insert. So we're going to call that, it's going to look weird because we're going to put that twice in here. But I think I want to do that because what this will allow us to do is make sure, it'll allow us to make sure that the, man, can't copy the whole line. It'll make it sure that the fields are already kind of set up. The other thing that we can do is right after, let's see. So we need to change this return here. So let's get rid of the return and just say save equals, and then we'll just return save. And then what I want to do is right here, we're going to do this after save, and this needs to be a capital S. So now we have two hooks. We have a before save and an after save that we can use in our models to do something to the data before it's saved and also after it's saved. You don't have to do either, but we just want that capability in our framework. So it adds us a little more flexibility. So we're going to call this after save here, and then we will return save. Alright, and then what I want to do is just make sure this is spelled correctly here. There we go. So we need to stub out the after save real quick just to make sure that everything will continue to work. So we're just going to public function after save. Now we don't have to use that, but that will give us flexibility again in our framework to have hooks in case we need to change or manipulate data before or after the save. Okay, so go back to users, and we're going to only use the before save here. And what we need to do in the before save is, let me look at my reference here, make sure I don't mess this up. But basically all we're going to need to do is set the password to a hashed password. So before save, we want to say this password is equal to password hash this password, and the second parameter will just be password default. That's it. So what's going to happen is, if you just need me to kind of walk you through what's going to happen, when you try to use the model save method, it's going to validate first. So it runs this validator function, and then if that validates, it's going to either insert or update based upon whether or not it's a new record or you're updating a record. But it's going to run the before save before it actually runs the save method, the insert or update. So the before save method, what we're doing is replacing the password with a hashed password. That way, when it saves to the database, it's not a plain text password, it's the hashed one. So that's what's going to happen. So after the save runs, it's going to attempt to run an after save method. We have not added an after save method on users. I don't need to, but there may be a use case for that. But I'm going to guess most of the time you're going to be using it before save. Probably a few use cases for after save. The next thing that we can do is go ahead and scroll down here, and we can actually get rid of this register new user function right here. Just go ahead and get rid of that. We don't need that anymore, and I just don't want to tempt you to use it because you need to do it like we do it here in the register controller. Okay, the next thing that we need to do, now that this is all set up, let's test that and make sure that that works. So I'm going to register a new user. So we'll say Tony Parham Tony at mailinator.com. I spelled that wrong, but it doesn't matter. Mailinator.com, and then the username is going to be Parham Tony, and the password, I'll just type a password here, and this should not save as a plain text password. So we've got a problem here. Syntax error on model line 57, and it's probably because I forgot a semicolon. I tend to do that a lot. So we'll go to model, look at line 57. I bet on line 56 I messed something up. Yep, I did not do my semicolon there. So let's go back. Let's just make sure it didn't do anything funky in database. Let's go back and register again. Sorry about that. The joys of having syntax errors. Nothing can ever be fast. Alright, let's attempt to register now. Okay. Now we got a problem on model line 62. I shouldn't be so disappointed because I'm actually glad I make these little typos. It helps you guys learn because I get like so much like, I called that as a function. Man, that's so weird that I did that. But I get so many questions where you guys like make typos like this, and then you get this error message and you're like, I'm not sure what that means. So it went ahead and added it. So let's see, let me refresh, and it did not work. It actually did save it as a plain text password. So let me delete that, and let's go back and look at our code one more time. So our save function, we're come down. Oh, right. So fields are being passed in here. We actually need to do this before that. So let's go ahead and cut that and put it right here where I originally had it. And get rid of it here. So we'll leave the after saves there like that. Okay, the next thing I want to do is test it out again and see if it works. So let me go ahead and register, refresh, and now we have the hashed password, well, the way that we intended that to work. So let me just try to log in as Tony and make sure that all is good so far. I'm sure this form here is broken, or it could be broken because we didn't update it yet. And that's what we're going to do next. It may actually work, just because the old only because the old information is still there with the old validator stuff. So we're going to update that now, and that should wrap up our refactor. We'll do a quick scan through the entire application to make sure we don't have any more of those static input static get method calls, because we'll need to replace those if we do. Alright, so go back to the register controller now, and so we've cleaned up our register action and everything's working good there. Now we need to actually do this login action. So the first thing we know that we can do is get rid of validation equals new, and then both of these are just going to be required, so this is going to be easy to remember. So I'm going to get rid of this as well, and then instead of this $_post, remember we have access to this request, and then is post is the new way we're doing that. And then we're not going to do this validation passed thing anymore. We don't need to do that. So let me get rid of the closing deal. Let's see. We'll change the way this works in just a moment. But let's go ahead and send that back here. Let me go ahead and look at our form too, just to make sure we're all good there. So register login.php. We're not even passing the value, so that'll reset every time. That's fine. We could refactor this, which we will real quick, just because since we're refactoring stuff anyway. Let's go ahead and change this to the new syntax with the input block. All right. And what I want to do, and I shouldn't have done it there, I'm going to get rid of that. We'll change the display errors as well. Right underneath this, we're going to do the input block, and the first is going to be type of the input, and then we do the label, which is username, and then we do the field name, which will be username with an underscore. Then we do our input attributes, so we give it a class of form control, and then we do our surrounding div attributes, so we'll give that a class of form group. And I just have access to this because we're using Bootstrap. If you guys aren't using Bootstrap, you're going to need to change that. So now let's go ahead and do our password here. So it's going to be the same thing. So I'm just going to copy this line, paste it down here. We'll change the type to a type of password. The username gets changed to password. This gets changed. My new mouse. Password. I get really used to the Mac stuff. Then I can't use regular keyboard and mouse anymore. Alright, so let's see. Probably just going to leave the rest of this, except for, let's go ahead and do our form. And I'm going to actually want to do, I'm going to move this H3 outside of the form here. And then right here, we'll just call our FH display errors, and then what we'll pass into that is this display errors. Okay, then we can get rid of this line. Oops, get rid of the whole line. Oh my gosh. Come on, you stupid mouse. Okay. There's some more cleanup we could do, but I'm just going to leave this for now. So we need to go back to the register controller and make sure that our display errors are correct. So we're not looking at validation errors anymore. And the reason is, here's where the downside comes into doing this. The login form actually isn't tied to any sort of model. And since our validation is in models, we actually have to create a model just for this login form, which isn't all that bad, but and it's a really small file. So we'll just do models, and then we're going to say login.php, and let's see, we'll just go ahead and finish this model out really quick. So open your PHP tags, we'll say class login, and it's going to extend model. And then here we just need a few public properties, and that will be username, password, and remember me. Okay, and then on the construct here, public function construct, and the only reason we're creating this model is so that we can use the model validation stuff. So we're just going to need to construct the parent, and for the table, this is where you normally pass a table. I'm just going to say temp fake here because there's not actually going to be a database table called login. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to do is run our public function validator. And here we're just going to say this run validation, and we're going to pass in the new required validator. And the first parameter is always this, and the next parameter will be the field. It'll be an array that has field, so this will be username, and then our message, and this will be username is required. Alright, and then I'm just going to copy this whole line and paste it right below. And we'll just change field to password and update our message to say password is required. Now our model, this is pretty much all we need, except for I want to create an easy function for us to get the remember me thing. So we're going to say public function get remember me checked. And then we're just going to return this remember me is equal to on. And the reason we're doing that is because in the login.php file here, this checkbox, this remember me, the value is set to on. So if they check it, it's going to be a value of on. So let me check one last thing here, my reference, make sure I'm not missing anything. I guess I did clean up. Okay, I'll stop being lazy. I did add a few new things for us to clean up this a little bit more and turn this into a form helper. So if you go to the core form helpers class, we are going to add a checkbox block. No, that doesn't exist yet, so we need to add that. It's going to be pretty easy. Public static function checkbox block, and this is going to take several parameters as well, and the parameters here will be label, name, checked, and we're going to set that equal to false by default, and then we'll have our input attributes of default will be an empty array, and our div attributes also an empty array by default. Alright, so we will just copy this div string from above, paste that in, and then we need to add an additional one that we're going to call checked string, and this is where we're going to use that method. So actually, checked string, we're just going to use a ternary here, and we're going to say if checked, Then we're going to return checked, and this needs to be a space, so checked equal checked. Else, we're just going to return an empty string. So the next thing that we need to do is set up our HTML. So this is going to be a div. And in here, what we need to do is pass in or concatenate in our div string like that. And then the next line will be HTML concatenate equals, and this is going to be label for equals. And I'm just gonna, we'll come back and then we'll have our label, and then let's see. Let's go ahead and close the label here. All right. So next thing we want to do is we want to concatenate in here. We want to break out a PHP and concatenate our label, and then we'll do a space, and then input type is going to equal checkbox. ID will equal name will equal our value is going to equal on, and that's it for that. Now we just need to plug in everything that we need here. So our for, what we want to do here is break out of that, concatenate on. This is going to be name, and we're going to do the same thing for name and ID. So we'll break out, we'll do name, we'll do the same. Oops, I got a error here. Ah, man, I hate sometimes they try to be intelligent and then they screw you by adding the extra quotes for you. Alright, so here, and we'll add name. So you might have to really look at this, make sure your syntax is perfect here. And then the last thing that we need to do here is at the end of our thing, we want to break out, and we're going to add our checked string. And then also at some point we need to add our input string as well. So maybe just right here at the end of this, we'll also right here we'll just concatenate on input string. Just like that. So check string and input string. We have our label. Just want to double check that's correct. Alright, so then the next thing that we need to do is just add on our closing div tag, and then we will return HTML. Alright, that's our checkbox block. So go ahead and double check that, and I could have an error there too, so let's go and use that now. So in the login.php file, we're going to go ahead and try to use it here, see if we got it correct. So checkbox block, and the first thing that we want to pass there is our label, which is remember me, and then we pass the name, so remember me, and then we'll pass, we need to tell it if it's checked or not, so that will be this login get remember me checked. And then we're not going to give it any additional input attributes, but we will give it an additional div attribute there, and that will be a class of form group. Not groups, just group. All right. So we can get rid of this now. And then we can also use our, we can use our form helper submit block, and that will be submit button text will be login, and then we'll give it an input will be class of button, button large, and button primary. And then for our surrounding div, we're going to give it a class of actually we're not going to give it one of those at all. Let's not do anything there. That's fine. Because this div, well, this div had a class of form group. I guess we could do that. Let's do that. Sorry about that. So class of form group. And now we can get rid of all of this and clean that up some. So now let's go back to our login. Alright, that's good. So now we need to go back to our register controller and finish this up and then see if it works. Alright, so now our login, we're saying is post, and then what we have to do is at the top of the login action, before this request, we're going to say login model is equal to new login, which is that model we just created. Alright, so then we're going to do our cross-site request forgery check here. So it'll be the first thing in our check if it's post. We'll just say this, and we'll say request CSRF check. Alright, and then we will, we're going to go ahead and do our check here. So we're going to say login model, and then we're going to assign, and we're going to assign this request get. Alright, and then we're going to run the validator. So login model run validator, just validator, not run validator. So it's a lowercase v, so login model validator. So that's what's going to run that, because we're not saving it. So the save function runs that automatically, but since we're not using the save function in this, we'll just need to run that directly. So we're going to run that, and then we're going to do an if statement, and we're going to say if login model validation passed, then we're going to copy all of this stuff here, only if they've included that. We're going to put this here. All right. So here's some problem with the remember me stuff. So instead of input get remember me, what we're going to do is say and login model remember me. So yeah, that's fine. We don't need to do is set post. We'll just say if, well, let's look at that. Let's look at that input and see how I did that. Yeah, we'll just say if is set this request get, and then we'll just do remember me. Okay. So user, if that happens, the user log in, it's going to pass in the remember thing. What we could do, instead of doing all this craziness here, let me look at that login here. Remember me is null. So yeah, let's simplify this a whole lot. Let's just use our login model. Let's see what that was. Get remember me checked. So get remember me checked, and then that will return true or false, and we'll pass that in there. All right. So that's good. And the last thing that we need to do is we're going to say, instead of that, we'll say login model, and then we had that add error message. So we'll add that to the username. And the second parameter is just going to be there is an error with your username or password. Okay. The next thing that we need to do is pass. We want to pass, let's see. Let me indent that correctly. We want to pass to the view this view login equals login model. Let's go and check this out now. Let's hit login, and we got a problem. What did I do wrong here? And that's because I didn't do the double underscores there. Validation, undefined variable validation on the register controller. Line 30. Yep. So we don't want to call validation. We want to do login model, and I believe that will be get. It's called get error message. Get error messages. Login model. Get error messages. Save that. Try again. All right. Still some more issues here. So we'll just go through and clean them up. First one, array to string conversion, line 9. So I had label name checked, input div. Let me make sure I did that correct. So go to login.php. We had input name. I don't have a value. So the value for this, I'm just going to leave as a blank value because I don't want to repopulate their username. We could though. Yeah, let's do that for them. So we'll say this login username, and then on the password we'll say this login password. Getting closer, guys. Alright, so we got those two gone now. So undefined variable checked on line 32. Go back to our form helpers, line 32. And that's because I just put check there. That should be checked. So that'll take care of another one. And then we have check string. And that's because there's a capital T there. I'll take care of another one. I had a lot of errors in this one. Alright, warning, a non-numeric value encountered on line 35. And that's because I have a minus sign there instead of an equals. Wow, tons of typos. So now if we hit login, we have one more. Undefined method login validation passed. So let's see, did we add that method? Let's go back and look at the model. And we're looking for a validation passed method. We may not have added that yet. Oh, I put passes. So let's just change that to a D. Validation passed. I'm going to do a search and just make sure I haven't used that anywhere. So I'm going to do a find search in directory here, and I'm going to look for I'm going to search for this validation passes. Okay, that's good. We didn't have any of those, so that should fix another error. Try again. Boom. Username is required, password is required, so let's just try that. Password is required. Put some garbage in there. It says there is an error with your username or password, so all that's working. I'm going to check that and hit login. That should stay checked. It did. Uncheck it to stay checked, so that's all working. So let's go now and let's inspect and see if this we'll see if this cookie gets set. Let's see, performance. I'm going to log in. All right. So we can see that there's an input get still that we used. So register controller, where did we? Yep, right here. So this we need to change to, instead of input get, this will actually be this request get password. Getting closer and closer, guys. Call to undefined function get remember me checked. Did I spell that wrong? Login model get remember me checked. Get remember. I'm just going to copy that, and we'll go back here and paste that there, and then we'll also go to the login.php just in case I had an error there. Try again. Okay, yep, we got a problem. Register controller 21. Register controller line 21, and that is because I did a minus there. I forgot the, man alive, guys. Sorry about all these typos. Alright, log this in. Let's see if we have any cookies. Where are my cookies at here? Let's see. Do I have to add it? More tools. They must have moved it. Sources. Network. Oh, here, application. Cookies. Look at localhost. And this is my remember me cookie. So if I looked at my config, it would be correct. So that's good. So let's go try to log out. That worked. We are missing, for some reason, we must have deleted the register link here. So let's go add that back in. Login.php, text right. Text primary should be there. Let me block. Let's inspect this and see what's going on. Oh, it's way over there. So somehow we have it outside the form, or it's being rendered outside the form. That probably means that we have a bad div situation going on in our form helpers. So div, input type, remember me. Input, for some reason, doesn't have a block. So submit block. Go and look at our form helpers. So there's probably an error here. Div, input. What's going on? I did use submit block. Wow, man, this is weird. Let's look again and try to look through this form. Okay, we have an open and closing div here. Open and closing div there. It is just missing the div around this input. Input submit. Man, that's strange. Yep, I found it. So in the checkbox block, I had missed the little closing tag thing there. Man, I had so many typos in this video. You guys get to see exactly how I screw stuff up all day long. So our register thing is back where it should be. So that's all good. It's looking good now. Let's just, while we're here, let's mess with our cross-site request forgery here. Let me just change some of this value here. Yeah, I think we're looking good now. We've refactored. Let's do one last little check here, see if make sure I'm not creating another bug. And what I want to do is I want to search the entire application for input get, because we got rid of that function. It doesn't look like I'm using it anywhere else. You may be using it other places, so go ahead and do that check and make sure you change it to this request get. So let's look at our contacts controller here. All this needs to be refactored. I'll let you guys kind of refactor that. Just look at the way that we did it in the register controller, and all of this can be updated. And I want to, so contacts, home, yeah. So just this contacts controller really needs to be updated, and it looks like pretty much just the add action, the edit action, just the add and edit actions need to be updated. Let's see how long we are on this video so far. Yeah, this video is getting long, so maybe just for completion's sake, I will go ahead and shoot a really quick video to update these two actions as well. So I will see you guys in the next video.